In this video, we're going to talk about how to add content to your present screen in Lesson Launchpad. First of all, if you ever see something that looks like this, either no content scheduled or no content created, there could be several things at play. One, you may just have not created any content for this class. Or two, you could be on an active date that doesn't have any content scheduled. To add content to the present page, you're just going to click the Add Content Box button. And here are the different content boxes. So you can see you've got a bunch of different options. The text editor box is just what it sounds like. You're going to get a full complement of text editing options, kind of like a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document. If you want to upload a picture, that sort of thing. There's a lot of things you can do in a text editor box. The agenda box is just an automatic agenda. You can use it as a checklist, or you can literally program times for each activity, and it'll keep you on track. Google Slides box is where you're going to add your Google Slides at. Google Doc is where you're going to add a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. Canva box, you're going to upload a Canva project. PowerPoint box, you're going to use a PowerPoint. PDF, you're going to use a PDF. The events box is tied to the events on the Teacher Hub page. Let me just go ahead and show that real quick. So if I go to the Teacher Hub, down here at the bottom, events. So if you've entered any events, you can use those within the events box on the present screen. So that's that. I'm going to go back to this class right quick. So the events box was that. Countdown box, that's basically where you can either use an event from the events page, or you can just put in a custom event for the countdown box. So that's great for things like, there are 20 days left in the semester, and it's going to count down the amount of days or class periods. There's different options you can set. A timer box is kind of what it sounds like. You can use a timer, a stopwatch, all those different things. There's also a widget version of this. Web box, it's going to let you embed a website right within Lesson Launchpad. Now, some websites will not allow themselves to be embedded. Any website that requires you to log in to view the content on that website, it's probably not going to work. YouTube is kind of one like that. However, YouTube does allow embeds with a special URL. We actually handle that for you at Lesson Launchpad. So if you put in a YouTube link, we're going to automatically convert it for you just because YouTube's so common. There are other websites that won't work at first within a web box. However, you need to check and see if they have either an iframe option or an embed option, and that link should work within Lesson Launchpad. The music box is basically where you're going to use your Spotify playlist, your Apple Music playlist, all those things. There's also a widget version of that. A camera box is if you have a document camera or a webcam, you can actually present that webcam screen right on Lesson Launchpad or within Lesson Launchpad. So this is great for having a document camera. If you want to have your agenda box on the left and your document camera box on the right, you can show whatever you need to show right there on the screen from the document camera. This box is coming soon, so we won't talk about that one yet. And then the whiteboard box, that's basically just going to give you a little whiteboard that you can annotate on right within your present screen. Currently, we default to single box mode, which just means if you click on one of these, it's just going to add that box to the screen right away without any hesitation or anything. Add multiple allows you to add multiple boxes at once. So for example, if okay, I'm going to want an agenda box and a text editor box, you can add these at the same time. And then a box stack just gives you 2 or 3 boxes stacked on top of each other. So for example, you've got a situation where you don't need a full height box, you want a smaller box. This is going to give you that. And you can, like I said, you can do up to 3 of those. But it works the same way. You just click on this and then select your boxes. You can select multiple of the same boxes. By the way, if you want to get rid of any of these, you can just click right there, or you can close out of them here. You can also drag and drop the order here. This is how I like to set up my screen. Let's do this. We'll add a single box agenda box. And then we'll go back in here and let's do a box stack we'll just do a text editor box on the top. And let's do a countdown box on the bottom. And now you see we've got those 2 boxes on the screen. Every content box has this options drop-down button that you hover over to access. If you're on a touch screen, if you just kind of click up here, it'll pop up for you and then you can tap it. So for example, if you need to edit your agenda, this is where you would edit your agenda. A lot of boxes will have some sort of edit button like this. Every box will have this edit tab name. The H stands for heading, and that's down here at the bottom. If I hover over agenda here, you see it turns blue around it. Same thing for the box stack. Let's talk about the box stack because it's a little bit unique. Notice when you hover over this top box, you get an options drop down over here and an options drop down over here. This is the options drop down for the whole box as a unit. But you'll see you get options where you can rename the tab, you can set the active dates, you can duplicate, you can save it as a template. And then finally down here at the bottom is this button where you can kind of manage the various parts of the box stack in terms of adding a new box, deleting a box, moving them, reordering them, all that good stuff. On the box stack, the normal options drop down is over here. Another quick little point I would like to make here is that you can actually resize these panels. So if you hover over, for example, right here, you can make them bigger or smaller. And then same thing here, you can make this bigger, you can make this smaller. Another thing when it comes to managing content and just, making the screen look the way you want it to is how do you move these boxes? Well, you can click down here on the tab and it opens up this little screen. You can reorder these boxes. You can change the heading from here. You can obviously delete multiple at the same time. You can also hide these boxes. So this is kind of a key thing. Let me just create another text box really fast. So now we've added another box, and I don't really like to have this multi-box in the middle, so if I want to reorder this, I can click on any of these. You can also click this far left button, and that's basically the same thing, so we'll just click that, and you see here are those three boxes, and if I want to reorder them, I can just quickly drag, and you'll see that now they've been reordered. Now, let's say that this box has something in class that I'm going to use, but I don't want it taking up screen real estate the entire time. I want to be able to toggle it in and out. And so you do that in the same screen by just clicking right here and dragging down. So that is that. Now, most teachers have a setup that they normally just kind of use for class. Let me kind of show you really quickly in the content manager how you can very quickly get the same idea across multiple days. You see that on this Friday, because this was Friday the 24th, notice all these other days don't have content. So I'll very quickly talk about active dates just because you need to have at least a basic understanding of that for this to make sense. If I go back to the present screen here, you'll see I'm currently on Friday, July 24th. All of these boxes were created when the active date was set to Friday, July 24th. So, therefore, they will be active on those days. However, if I go back to Thursday, there's nothing there because, once again, that content was created when the active date was set to July 24th. Now, you could make all this content appear on Thursday, July 23rd by changing the active dates of it. And you can do that by using these active dates button. So, for example, if I just really want to quickly move this box to Thursday instead, well, I just click on Thursday, save active dates. Now it's disappeared from this day, and you'll see that now the agenda is on Thursday. You can also do this from the content manager. So now you'll see that that agenda is on Thursday. If I just click this little button right here, you'll see that I can move it back to Friday. Now, you can also have the same box appear across multiple days. And once again, I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty here of active dates, but when you're talking about content in Lesson Launchpad, you've got to talk about active dates. Notice if I wanted this agenda to appear every day this week, I could do something like this, and I click Save Active Dates. Notice it says, you are telling Lesson Launchpad to show this box on multiple days. Edits on any day will appear on all selected active dates. So what that means is, if I click Save, notice my agenda, and when I hover over it, you see it's highlighting it on all 5 days, because this is now the same box on every single day. So for example, let me just go to Monday here. So now I'm on this agenda. I'm on Monday the 20th. If I went in and edited this and said, step 1 is now, I don't know, new step. We'll just say that, okay? I have changed my agenda for Monday. Cool. All right. Well, now Tuesday rolls around. If I go to Tuesday, Tuesday also says new step now. That's because this box is the same box being applied to every one of these days because I set the active dates to that. So if you want it to function like that, that's great. That's how it'll function. But new users especially always get confused with active dates because they don't realize that, oh, okay, this is the same box applied across multiple days. Lesson Launchpad is just saying, yep, we're going to show it that box on Monday. Yep, we're going to show that box on Tuesday. Yep, we're going to show it on Wednesday. Now, if you wanted a separate agenda, we're just going to quickly set this back to only be on Friday. And so now notice that box has removed itself from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday because we told Lesson Launchpad, no, we don't want you to show that box on those days. So now I've got my Friday agenda. In fact, let's just go back to the present screen here, and we'll call this Friday agenda. Sure, Friday agenda. Save. So now if I wanted to create a different agenda for Thursday, you could do this several ways, right? You could just go back to Thursday and click add an agenda that way. You could, especially if you had like a very similar agenda the previous day and you didn't want to start completely new with a new agenda, you could go in here and click copy and then copy today. And now you've got that copy of Friday agenda on Thursday. Now, this is different from active dates because this is a completely new box. Notice when I hover over this one does not light up. Okay, that's because these are separate. Now, they look the same now because I just copied it. I made an exact copy and I put it on Thursday. So you would have to go in at this point. In fact, we can do that. So let's go in here. Notice we're on Thursday, July 23rd. It says Friday agenda, but that's just because I copied it from Friday. And if I go in here, I can rename this to Thursday agenda, save. And so now we have our Thursday agenda, and then there's our Friday agenda. Hopefully you're kind of understanding the idea here.